Today is Monday, March 18th. We'll explain another case in front of the U.S. Supreme Court that could reshape the future of social media. Also, a surprising announcement from former Vice President Pence about his 2024 endorsement. Plus, a landmark deal that could drive down home prices. The unconventional way more Americans are handling financial emergencies. And the brackets are set, what you need to know about this year's March Madness. Those stories and more news next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear another highly anticipated free speech case about social media. This one is specifically about how much power the government should have to influence content moderation. One example being brought up goes back 3 years to when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote online that baseball legend Hank Aaron's death was caused by the COVID-19 vaccine, which medical examiners later said wasn't true. Right away, the digital director for the White House's COVID response team saw the post and wrote an email to an official at Twitter asking that it be removed. Well, not everyone thinks the White House should have done that. Critics say it was an example of a broad pressure campaign by the federal government to eliminate views it doesn't like. But the Biden administration insists it was nothing that sinister, that it was just an effort to correct information about a life-saving vaccine during a pandemic. Other lawmakers, both Democrat and Republican, have done the same, asking Twitter to remove certain posts from time to time, many having to do with voting information or to address what they saw as violent threats or intimidation. And now, the Supreme Court is being asked what boundaries, if any, should be set. This comes just 3 weeks after the High Court heard another big case that challenged laws that limit how social media companies themselves can regulate user content. And analysts say the outcomes of both cases could drastically change the internet as we know it. Justices are likely to issue their rulings this summer. One of the most significant state criminal cases in American history is now allowed to move forward, but with a change to the prosecution. We're talking about the election interference case out of Georgia against former President Trump and members of his inner circle. A judge decided the district attorney who's been leading the case can stay on, but her chief deputy had to step down. Remember, they admitted to having a romantic relationship. Defense attorneys said the affair violated Georgia ethics laws and called for them both to be disqualified, which could have upended the entire case. On the other side, the DA in the case testified that the relationship never created any financial or ethical conflicts of interest. And with that, she avoided disqualification, even though the judge did say there were questions about whether she testified truthfully. But she's not totally in the clear just yet. The Georgia State Senate and Republicans in the U.S. House have launched their own investigations. And former President Trump, his co-defendants, and their lawyers can still appeal. Former President Trump should not count on an endorsement from his old running mate. Over the weekend, former Vice President Mike Pence says he can't, in good conscience, back Trump. Of course, the two had a falling out on January 6, 2021, when Pence would not stop the 2020 election results from being certified. But Pence says his decision not to endorse Trump goes beyond January 6th. He says the former president is walking away from conservative principles, like American leadership in the world and fiscal responsibility. This comes as a bit of a surprise, since back when Pence was running for president last year, he signed a pledge saying he would support the GOP's eventual nominee, something that was required to participate in primary debates. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley also signed, but has since said she's no longer bound by that pledge. The Trump campaign has not immediately responded, but the former president doesn't seem too fazed. He was busy on the campaign trail over the weekend, and his rally speech in Ohio has since grabbed a lot of headlines. There, he predicted that if he doesn't win this November, American democracy will come to an end. He also said there would be a bloodbath, which his campaign has since clarified, saying he meant there would be devastation in the U.S. auto industry, not actual violence. President Biden also spoke about his opponent at a traditional Washington, D.C. dinner over the weekend, saying Trump is the one who is a danger to democracy and mentally unfit for office. The presidential election is 231 days away. As expected, Vladimir Putin won a fifth term as Russian president, solidifying his rule into the 2030s. He received a record 87% of the vote. Though Western governments like the U.S., U.K., and Germany have said the election was neither free nor fair. Putin only faced opponents who were previously vetted by the Russian government. Actual opposition candidates have all been banned from the election, or have been exiled, imprisoned, or have died under suspicious circumstances. And dozens of people were arrested for protesting. In a victory speech, Putin thanked Russians for turning out to vote, saying his win will allow the country to become stronger and more effective, including in Ukraine. A volcano in Iceland is erupting for the fourth time in 3 months, and this one is likely to be its most powerful eruption yet. It also came with little warning. The Iceland Meteorological Office registered warning signs only about 40 minutes before the eruption began on Saturday. Footage shows orange jets of lava soaring into the night sky and giant clouds of smoke. Over the weekend, one of Iceland's landmark tourist attractions, the Blue Lagoon Geothermal Spa, had to be evacuated, and a nearby town had already been evacuated. Scientists think the area is now entering a new volcanic era that could last for decades or even centuries. Much more news for you still ahead. But first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I know you value your time, and that's one of the many reasons you listen to this podcast. You want to be informed and efficient. Because, let's face it, we are all busy. I know personally, between work and family, there's only so much time left for myself. And then when I do get maybe an hour just for me, I sometimes question how exactly I should use it. If you've ever wondered that, therapy can help you really find what matters most to you so you can do more of it. And maybe you need some guidance to set boundaries and just find that time in the first place. I know therapy has helped me anytime I feel overwhelmed, burnt out, or unsure. It's so nice to have that guidance that actually makes me feel better and gives me long-term strategies to be my best self. If you're thinking of starting therapy but aren't sure how or where to start, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, so it's flexible and convenient, suited around your schedule. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to the news. Health officials are now asking Americans to double-check to make sure they're up to date on their regular vaccines. It comes as the U.S. has tallied at least 60 measles cases so far this year, more than all of last year. Health officials are also grappling with major outbreaks of measles in other parts of the world. The CDC says most of the American cases have been linked to unvaccinated people who have traveled abroad and then exposed others who don't have immunity. Measles is extremely contagious, and a person who has an infection can spread it for 4 days before developing symptoms. Those symptoms include high fever, runny nose, cough, and a distinct rash. The CDC says most people who catch measles recover without significant problems, but an unvaccinated person who gets it does have about a 20% chance of being hospitalized. Those most at risk of the disease are babies who are too young for the shots, adults and children with compromised immune systems, and pregnant women. It could soon cost less for American homeowners to sell. A real estate trade group agreed to a landmark deal that gets rid of a staple in the industry, the standard 6% sales commission. The National Association of Realtors settled a series of lawsuits from home sellers who argued they were forced to pay excessive fees. The NAR will now pay $418 million in damages to tens of millions of home sellers, and it will get rid of its commissions rules. So real estate agents will now most likely have to lower their commissions to compete for business. Housing experts tell the New York Times this deal and the expected savings for homeowners could trigger one of the most significant jolts in the U.S. housing market in a century. Some even compared it to the 1930s New Deal that stabilized the nation's economy after the Great Depression. The settlement still needs to be approved by a federal court, but the rule changes are expected to take effect this summer. LinkedIn is looking to expand beyond the job search. Reports say it's now breaking into gaming as well. A spokesperson confirmed the news to TechCrunch, saying the LinkedIn team is experimenting with adding puzzle-based in-app games, sort of like Wordle. The spokesperson says the idea is to, quote, unlock a bit of fun, deepen relationships, and hopefully spark the opportunity for conversations. Another idea is to rank companies based on their employees' scores in the games. LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, which also owns Xbox and Activision Blizzard, but it hasn't said whether Microsoft is involved in this new venture. For now, there's no release date. It was another big awards night in Hollywood. The NAACP Image Awards happened over the weekend, honoring the achievements of people of color in TV, music, literature, and film, and those who promote social justice. The Color Purple musical won in many categories, including Outstanding Motion Picture. Abbott Elementary was named Outstanding Comedy Series, and Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story was named Outstanding Drama Series. The group New Edition was inducted into the NAACP Image Awards Hall of Fame, and the night's top prize, Entertainment of the Year, went to Usher, who gave a moving speech about his mother and the impact she's had on his career. Queen Latifah hosted the awards ceremony that aired live on BET. It's officially March Madness season. It was Selection Sunday yesterday when we found out UConn, Purdue, Houston, and North Carolina will be going into the NCAA men's basketball tournament as number 1 seeds. UConn, the team that actually won last year's tournament, is widely considered the favorite. March Madness officially begins with the first games tomorrow, though the games in the round of 64 begin Thursday, so make sure you get your brackets filled out before then. On the women's side, the top seeds are South Carolina, Iowa, USC, and Texas. The women's tournament starts on Wednesday. ESPN is the exclusive broadcaster of the women's tournament, while the men's tournament, as always, will be on CBS and its partner stations like TBS, TNT, and True TV. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, thanks to our sponsor, Honeylove. It's time to spring clean our closets, and if you do nothing else, get those essentials upgraded. For me, I know I'm putting all of my Honeylove items in the keep pile and front and center in my drawer because they are next level comfortable and cute. I mean, we all know that feeling when you get home from a long day and immediately want to get into your pajamas. With Honeylove, you won't have to experience that again because their items are so comfortable, you'll forget you're wearing them. For the ladies listening, Honeylove's crossover bra gives you the comfort and support you need, but with the feeling, quality, and look you want. And that's true whether you're wearing Honeylove's shapewear and bras or their leggings and loungewear. And speaking of leggings, you all know Honeylove's Legging 2.0 is still my favorite leggings to wear. I wear them literally every week, if not every day. So treat yourself to the best bras and more on the market and save 20% off at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off, honeylove.com/newsworthy. And after you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Treat yourself to Honeylove because you deserve it. Now back to Money Monday. 401ks are more than just retirement accounts these days. They're also acting as emergency funds. The Vanguard Group says a record share of 401k account holders took early withdrawals from their accounts last year for financial emergencies. People who do take from their accounts typically have to pay income tax and often a 10% penalty if they're younger than 60. Though the penalty can be waived if the money is used for a qualified hardship, like preventing an eviction or paying medical or tuition bills. A Vanguard consultant says he thinks more investors may be turning to their 401ks to avoid higher cost debts that have come with rising interest rates. In fact, credit card debt surged to a record high at the end of December. Of course, inflation is up too. But average 401k account balances rose last year as well, so the money was there for the taking. People are allowed to take up to half of their balance or $50,000, whichever is less. Most people aren't taking out that much, though. Vanguard says last year, 75% of hardship distributions totaled $5,000 or less. All right, thank you so much for listening today. We'll be back tomorrow. For now, have a great day.